was 20 years old. I was out west on a camping trip when my near-death experience happened. And I was in a irrigation ditch, of all things. It was a place where young people would go to cool off from the very hot Arizona summertime weather. And this particular day, it was 115 degrees. And my friend and I went out to this area where there must have been a couple hundred other people. And what you would do is take an inner tube, jump in the water, it was kind of on a slant, and take the ride down. The trick at the end was to kind of get out of that area before going to a spot where it was more rough water and some rocks and things. Well, I was okay until the third time. And that third time down, I lost the inner tube. And I found myself underwater, like turning somersaults endlessly, on and on and on. And I was never one to open my eyes underwater. And so I didn't know up from down or anything. I was just stuck in this undercurrent going round and round. And then the next thing, it just seemed like I couldn't hold my breath any longer. And I thought, well, I guess I'm gonna die now. And with that, I was no longer in my body anymore. And I was in another totally different space. It was really dark, but I could see without having eyes. It was still me. My thinking ability, my feelings and emotions, and my personality were all intact. It was just without my physical body. And no fear whatsoever. I was simply curious. And when I looked around, it seemed like to be a dark space about maybe the size of a 12, 15 feet square area, and velvety. It had a velvety soft feeling to it. And I just kind of was looking around. I really didn't see anything. And until I looked off to the kind of upper left area, and I saw this pinpoint of light. And I became very curious. And I started to move in that direction. And being more and more curious and going faster. And at some point, this incredible knowing 100% that this pinpoint of light somehow was God. The force that created everything and me and everyone and everything that ever existed and will ever exist. And it felt like this was my father also, and like I was a child. And so at that point, I couldn't wait to get back or get to this as fast as I could. I felt like I was going home. I mean, the home of everything too. And so I just started zooming really fast, faster and faster, and getting closer. And this pinpoint of light then became a big ball of incredibly bright energy of light. And I just crashed right into it at the end and became one with this big ball of loving light energy. It was really comprised of the most incredible feeling of love you could ever possibly imagine. Just indescribable, the enormity of this feeling of love, unconditional love, and at the same time just bliss and joy. And I get really tingly feeling all over whenever I think of this. It's just so beautiful. And just ecstasy, just beyond anything you can imagine here on earth. It's way beyond that. And so I became full, so full of it. And when I felt like there was no room for any more, we started to pull apart a little bit and be separate. And it really strongly felt like this is my father and I'm a child. And then I was just full of questions. Every question I ever had was answered. It was asked and I received the answers to all questions I have ever had. And then it was this feeling of playfulness. And I said, well, what are we gonna do now? And our communication was like telepathic. It was words I could hear, but it wasn't with using my mouth or anything, so there wasn't the physical stuff. And God said, well, we're gonna look at the life that you just left. And I thought, oh, something serious. Okay. And there appeared, like off to the left, it looked like a TV screen. And God had control of the remote. And what was gonna start playing was my life that I just left. And so as I began to watch this, I then became involved in it in a completely different way than just one-dimensional watching it. I was part of it. I was reliving it again, but from a multi-dimensional aspects. I was me again, but I was also the person I was involved with, whatever interaction. And so what was happening was we were stopping at significant learning events in my life. I just thought I was the worst person, and God had to really ask me some questions, like, what did you learn from this now? And we really talked about this a lot, and I stayed for a long time being hard on myself, and we really had to work through it. But we got to the end of it, and I got to accept the idea that this was an okay thing. It's really, being on Earth is a series of learning experiences. And through this, I became a way more compassionate person. My life review was over pretty quick because my life was pretty short up until then, only 20 years old. So then that was done, and I said, okay, well, what are we gonna do now? And God said, well, you've got to go back. It's not your time yet. And I said, oh no, I'm staying here with you. I love it here. And God said, well, no, it's really not your time. You've got to go back. Oh no, I kept arguing. Oh no, I'm staying. I like it here. I'm never leaving. And God said, no, really, you've got to go back. And really, what about your family? And all that compassion I learned, well, where did it go? I said, oh, they'll be fine without me. Well, God said, let's see about that. And he directed my attention to look down, kind of off to the right, and it looked like clouds. And the clouds parted, and I could see down below, standing, were my father, mother, and my little brother. And I was allowed to feel what they would feel if they were told that I had died. And oh my gosh, there was no way I was going to let that happen. It was way beyond anything I wanted to be responsible for. So I just kind of jumped away and yelled out, no. And God said, okay. And then I said, well, what will I do? He said, you will help me by showing love to people. And I kind of wish I would have asked for a manual or some kind of examples, because that I really, I was confounded by that for quite a number of years, trying to figure out how in the world was I going to show love to people? Do I go around hugging everybody I meet? Do I go out and get a big fancy degree from college and write some books and have who knows what? I don't know. I thought it had to be something big. Well, what I discovered was it doesn't have to be big at all. It's in all the everyday interactions with people, just to show kindness and love. Be a good listener, that sort of thing. It's really quite easy, and it makes you feel good too. I did have a request from God, and I said, okay, but before I leave, could you do me a favor? And God said, sure. What? And I said, could we please go back together like when I first got here? God said, yeah. And so we merged back together in this big ball of loving light energy. And oh my gosh, just the incredible, unlimited, unconditional love feeling. And until I was filled up again, couldn't add any more. And then I was zapped back into my body that was turning somersaults underwater. And I'm thinking, oh no, not this again. And so then, thankfully, I heard God's voice, which said, hold your breath a little while longer. And I did. And somebody on the shore reached in their arm and grabbed me and just yanked me out of the water. And I came out, coughing and all that expected kind of stuff when you're stuck underwater for who knows how long. I didn't have any memory of the experience yet. And I did not go back into the water. I just kind of stayed away from there. I couldn't wait to get back home to my parents to tell them how much I loved and appreciated them for everything they had ever done for me. And of course, they said, "Where's our daughter?" And so anyway, I just basically went about my life being a more compassionate, kind person. And I discovered IANDS, International Association for Near-Death Studies. And I began going to the experiencer retreats and found out there was all kinds of other near-death experiencers out there. And it's just great to be in their presence too. And it's just, it was overall just such a beautiful, enriching experience. And I'm just so happy to have shared it with you.